Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the channel. We are back with all the analysis and breakdown of the latest match, which was the Manchester Derby. Unfortunately, United were completely outclassed and outfought by Manchester City, who didn't even break a sweat. It was mainly a training exercise for them, and they should have won by more than 6 or 7 goals. But eventually, they took pity on United with just a 3-0 victory at Old Trafford. This has become a routine day out for United against top four side, top six sides, and this was another humiliating defeat in this campaign with a 3-1 loss against Brighton and a 3-1 loss against Arsenal as well. And to be honest, we didn't get a kick in this match. We were completely outthought in terms of tactics. We started well, but it wasn't by design. I think it was more down to the fact that City made some sloppy passes at the beginning, and they were playing risky football with the three centre back covering the whole width of the pitch. But as soon as Pep realized that, he brought back Rodri slightly deeper, and then they had the control. They seized all the control of the match and literally played us off the park. In terms of statistics, they dominated all of them. 60% possession, 600 passes, so many shots on the target. If it weren't for an inspired performance by Andre Onana, it could have been a lot worse. But it shouldn't come as a surprise for a Man United fan who have seen this team whittle and just throw the white towel during a match, during a contest like they did against Liverpool at Anfield with a 7-0 humbling that day. And I don't think that City really got out of the third gear. And if they did, they didn't require that kind of effort to all quality. And United were probably one of the easiest fixtures in terms of the danger or threat they had from the opposition. The whole performance from the team as well as from the manager was a disgrace, and this club just keeps on adding and piling on more torture for its fans. It just shows the chasm, the gulf between the two teams from the same city, and it just doesn't seem like it's gonna be bridged anytime soon. In terms of average position, United played a traditional 4-2-3-1 formation, but out of those three behind the striker Højlund, Bruno kept coming quite narrow to neutralize the City's dominance in that part of the field. But Pep Guardiola was too smart for Ten Hag's ploy, and he quickly realized that to have more control, he brought Rodri back in the defensive line and then started playing with 4 at the back. United couldn't adjust, and especially on the left-hand side, where Bruno was playing, it was completely nightmarish performance. Grealish and Bernardo Silva were excellent, and they kept putting balls behind Dalot without Bruno Fernandes tracking his runners, or even Eriksen, who had a shambolic performance defensively. With City, when we had the possession, because we were utilizing Onana a lot better this time, but unfortunately we weren't building with small or short passes. We kept going long with Onana, who, to be honest, he found few good balls directly to Højlund, but we couldn't take advantage of any of his knockdowns. But City put pressure on our centre backs with Alvarez, and Haaland actually kept dropping deep and just cutting out that pass to Amrabat or Eriksen from Onana. Both of our wide players, Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes, were abysmal, not just in terms of possession, losing it cheaply, but also in terms of the defensive duty. They weren't covering their runners, they weren't tracking back properly, and in terms of duels, they never win any kind of duel, be it on ground or aerially. In the second half, Mason Mount was brought in for Amrabat, which was a sackable offense from Erik Ten Hag. He completely misread the situation, and second half was a stroll for Manchester City with the midfield of McTominay, Eriksen, and Mason Mount. And even when Bruno Fernandes was brought inside in his favorite number 10 position, Mason Mount was put on the right wing, which he played even worse than Bruno, and he was even worse than Bruno in that position. Frankly, United just can't win the duels. even if tactically we set up with one-on-one defending and man-on-man marking, our players, especially midfielders and even forwards, apart from Hoyland, they can't win the duel. They're not physically or even in terms of their strength on the ball, not intimidating enough. And City had joy in terms of getting back the ball from us and just kept the ball, recycling it. I think it was a third goal which had more than 50 passes. So just that just highlighted the kind of journey we need to be on and the kind of regression that we have already seen in this team, especially this season. Ten Hag at one point of time was a student of Guardiola, especially at Bayern. But just it seems like he needs much more lecturing from the master himself. The most disappointing part was this probably would be one of the easiest games for this Manchester City team, especially considering that we are their biggest rivals. And this is certainly disheartening for all the fans who were in the stadium as well as watching all across the globe. And Ronana was exceptional. He didn't deserve to be on the losing side. He was the only Manchester United player who actually played anywhere near his levels. And he sadly has taken some confidence from his penalty save in the Champions League. And he made some crucial saves, especially against Haaland, to keep the score till 3-0. Thiago Dalot was given a run around by Jack Grealish and Bernardo Silva. He was given a torrid time. He didn't have any kind of control in possession and in terms of his defensive duty. Although he was left on his own devices because of lack of support from Bruno Fernandes, his own game was certainly shambolic. Harry Maguire was our best defender. He was the best one out of a bad bunch. He did well in terms of keeping the ball, not giving away stupid passes, or even his duels. He was challenging Haaland, attested by the fact that Haaland actually preferred playing off Johnny Evans rather than Maguire. So it was a decent performance, but obviously not good enough for this club. Johnny Evans was atrocious. In terms of possession, he might be good with passing when not under pressure, but City doesn't give you that kind of time. So he kept giving the ball back to Onana, who just launched it high and wide. So in terms of defense, his defensive ability, he doesn't have any kind of pace. He's literally a snail out there. And Haaland had a field day with him, toying with him, and he was absolutely abysmal. Victor Lindelof was one of the worst players we had. Obviously, there is a caveat that he wasn't playing in his favorite position, and a lot of the blame should go to Ten Hag, who's playing a right-footed player who would rather play on the right-hand side, even as a fullback, but has been playing on the in the left back position, even though Sergio Reguilon was fit enough for this match. So we can have sympathy with him, but once he is on the pitch, he should have given more in terms of effort as well as in terms of quality. He left Holland free on the far post a couple of times, one of them leading to the second goal. So he has to be given this kind of marking. So Amrabat started well, to be honest. He did a defensive part well. Obviously, he wasn't good on the ball. He's left alone to do, I don't know what Ten Hag wants him to do. He doesn't have any kind of support, just like Casemiro doesn't. But defensively, he is all right. I mean, he got a yellow card which was not deserved. Rather, Jack Grealish should have been given a red card and should have been sent off. But the fact that Ten Hag took him off just spelled doom for us in the second half. And the second half performance, or the lack thereof, from United just shows how important he was, even though it wasn't a very good performance, but certainly he was the linchpin that kept the score at 1-0 at halftime. Christian Eriksen had few good passes, but it's like playing with one less player. He can't run, and he was completely destroyed by Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden. He couldn't track his runners. He just didn't. I just don't understand what he gives to the team, especially if he's not playing in his favorite number 10 position. Because in midfield he can't compete. With him, we can't compete against any midfield, let alone the very best of them. Bruno Fernandes was his usual captain calamitous. He doesn't deserve the armband. That's for sure. I mean, he's petulant, he's curt, he's unprofessional to say the least. I mean, the kind of influence a captain is supposed to have on other players, I just don't understand what he gives to the team. In terms of quality, he doesn't have it. He shouldn't be playing at this club. And the fact that he's been our best player, supposedly stats wise, in the worst phase of our history, or especially recent history, then it says a lot. I mean, we expect him to be our talisman in these matches, and he just doesn't surprise us in terms of his disappointing performances. I mean, he's very consistent, but consistently bad, and so he gets his usual score. Scott McTominay had a mixed bag in terms of his first half performance. He had couple of chances. I mean, the only two shots on target we had was from Scott. He should have scored with his second chance with a lovely pass from Marcus Rashford. But he just lacks football IQ. He just lacks quality in the final third, especially in terms of slipping other players in. He has a good shot on him, but that's not good enough. That's not enough for him to deserve starting position, starting place in this team. He does, in terms of his awareness, he lacks basic sentiments of his defensive markers, and in terms of pressing, he just doesn't have the ability or even consistency to deliver in such positions. So that was a disappointing performance from McTominay. Marcus Rashford was back to his usual self. There is no change in his form because this is the quality he has. I mean, people keep saying that he has had a dip in form, but rather the last season or the 3 months that he played well after the World Cup was a spike in his performance. I mean, if you look at his record, only 2 seasons, especially a patch of 2-3 months in both seasons. Apart from that, he hasn't played well for United, not just in terms of delivering on the biggest stage, but also with the fact that most of our attack break down either with Marcus Rashford or Bruno Fernandes. The fact that we gave him a 5-year contract, it just shows the kind of mess we are in. And Ten Hag will die on this hill. I mean, with Marcus Rashford and Bruno putting in such performances, such stinkers, I'm sure that Ten Hag won't last beyond Christmas, especially if there is no movement on the takeover or 25% investment front. So just I can't see any kind of improvement in Marcus Rashford. And come next season, I think we're gonna cut our losses if we are serious. Rasmus Højlund started on fire. I mean, he was dominating Ruben Diaz and John Stones, especially early, and Onana was finding him frequently in the first 15 minutes. He was able to knock down the ball and give it to people like Scott McTominay and Bruno Fernandes. Obviously, nothing came off of it because all of them are just clueless in the final third. But he did start well. I mean, it was a graveyard shift. He didn't get any kind of clear chance. One chance he did get, I think he should have gone down, just get the penalty and possibly a red card for John Stones, given the fact that he himself was penalized for a dubious fall in the box. So that takes another point from him. The penalty, obviously, I don't think it was a penalty, but if you put your hand on the opponent in the box, then it is up to the referee, and we don't know with VAR what kind of rule they're gonna employ and apply on a given Sunday. So you run a risk of giving a penalty, and he did. He should have taken this chance or just gone down and taken a penalty, but he didn't. Apart from that, he didn't get any clear chances. But he was industrious. He was running his lungs out, and the fact that he was substituted before Rashford or Bruno, just and the loud boos that Ten Hag got for that mistake. I'm sure he knows that he's doing what he can in terms of putting in the efforts, but certainly the quality, especially in the final third and the last moment of the or last action of attacking play, isn't there, and it just doesn't help that all other players are putting in stinkers every week. He hasn't gotten his first goal in the Premier League, so that might be playing on his mind as well. And hopefully he can get that goal and kick on from there. But this was a disappointing performance overall from him, and the fact that he is trying is a good sign. He needs much more than that to earn any kind of plaudits from us. Mason Magic Mount was absolutely atrocious. It's the signing that's gonna sink Ten Hag. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, this kind of signing, and for a moment, and sometimes I do feel sorry for him because it's an impossible position for him. I just don't see him doing anything to overturn that kind of public opinion against him. So obviously, these kind of performances don't help, and he just doesn't have the tools to deserve any kind of position in this team. Even on the bench, I don't think he's good enough for the bench in the United squad. So yeah, when he came on, we completely lost any kind of defensive screening of a back four, and the second half was won at a canter by Manchester City, and he contributed in it. So a bad performance from Magic Mount. Garnacho came on for Hoyland, which was an unpopular substitution. Obviously, Rashford should have gone off. He didn't get ball because United didn't keep the ball, and City was trolling. So he didn't have any contribution to the game that I can think of. I mean, he made a few runs into the box, but he was easily disposed by an experienced Kyle Walker. And sadly, he's too raw for these kind of occasions. So we can't expect too much from him when people like Rashford, who have such experience of this match, and derbies are putting in such bad performances. So nothing to shout about from Garnacho. Sergio Reguilon was finally brought on. He should have started. If he was fit enough to be on the bench, he should have started. We just lack balance on the left hand side, and when he came on, because Rashford doesn't offer any kind of help, he's always under the cosh. And with Foden in great form, and was Foden was playing exceptionally, and so he didn't have any kind of chance to make any kind of impact. Offensively, we just didn't get enough time on the ball or any kind of possession for him to contribute in any way. So that was a disappointing performance from him as well. Anthony came on and did the most passionate thing that we saw from Manchester United play in the second half. We actually kicked one of their players, I think Grealish. It was petulant, of course. He deserved a yellow card, but he showed that he wanted to win. He didn't like the fact that we were completely trounced by Manchester City. So there was that, but also I think there was an element that that Ten Hag didn't start him or even brought him on earlier. So that might have added to his frustration. So apart from that kick, he didn't get any other. So that was it from Anthony. Anthony Martial was brought in the last 5 minutes. He was non-existent. I mean, he didn't get. I don't think he get more than 5 touches of the ball, and they were just keeping the ball, Manchester City. So I think it was anticlimactic to bring him on. He wasn't gonna. We had already given up as a team, and I think it was more a ceremonial substitution, and it didn't have any kind of impact. Erik Ten Hag has been consistently bad this season. He deserves the lowest possible points even this time around. I mean, he was completely schooled and outplayed by Pep Guardiola, but that's not something that we are surprised by, because Guardiola does that to even better coaches and managers. But Ten Hag, more and more we see of him and his terrible decision making and in-game management. It just looks like a damsel in distress, a rabbit before headlights. I mean, he just seemed clueless. The fact that he has the audacity to defend his his tactics and strategy, and lopsided placement and placing of players like Victor Lindelof, or keeping Varane out for tactical reasons. I just think that he's making excuses and digging his own grave. I think he is fast losing any kind of support he has had, and because he's not showing any kind of intelligence that we had hoped. And I think at Ajax he was expected to not just deliver results but also performances and a particular brand of play. Here at United, because we are under clowns as far as ownership and management goes. He has been given a free rein, and he's tying us in knots that I don't think he has clue how to open up. And it's been a joke since February, since the final of the Carabao Cup, which we deserve to lose, to be honest, by the fact that we were completely dominated. Of course, we had two moments of quality that gave us the two goals, but we could see from that match and from there on in that he doesn't have any kind of philosophy. He's just trying to get results by covering our deficiencies. Even his signing, because he has been given and back, he has been given financing and been backed in the transfer market. Most of the players he has already worked with previously, so there is not that element of risk in terms of not knowing what they actually bring to the table. So with those signings, I think that he has to cop a lot more criticism that I think he's been receiving. I think he's actually been found out a lot this season, and I just don't see that even the victories we've had. I think apart from the Crystal Palace victory in the Carabao Cup, where they fielded a weakened side, I don't think we have deserved a win all season. So even with Nottingham Forest, we played well, especially after going 2-0 down. But overall, I didn't think we deserve a victory even then. So taking all of that into consideration, this has been a terrible campaign, and I just don't see any other way it ends other than a sacking for Ten Hag. United are 10th in the Premier League, and 8 points behind Liverpool in the fourth position. Also, 7 points behind Aston Villa, who are flying at the moment. I just don't see any kind of progress. I just don't see any kind of even glimmer of hope in terms of achieving top four. I think it's going to get worse, a lot worse. And if he gets a sack, Ten Hag, I just don't see United having any kind of plan. Maybe an interim, but that's a cycle that we keep on seeing every second or third year, and it just seems like United are stuck in this rut, and I just don't see any escape out of it. As a manager, Ten Hag has certainly underperformed, but even as a human being, I can see his deficiency. He's a bad characteristic like being stubborn and not willing to humble himself by accepting his own faults. In terms of interviews, he just constantly harps on about United playing well, competing with City, which we never did. He keeps on making excuses for his changes or his player selections. He's a stickler for his own hubris. With Sancho, even I just don't understand. He has made a meal out of Sancho's not putting enough effort or gumption in the training, but his own players, his favorites, are doing the same, if not worse, on match days. So I just don't see any kind of consistency in his action and his speech. His prescriptions just seem like a lot of hypocritical platitudes, and I just don't see that he actually has deserved any kind of praise, and I just don't see any kind of future with him. I mean, I think most of us have been hoodwinked by his performances for especially the team that reached the semi-finals. But the more we see of him, and the more of his tactics that we see on match days, it just doesn't seem that he knows what he's doing. I mean, sometimes he seems like a Sunday league player. The fact that he said then Mason Mount was brought in to bring more attacking threat was ludicrous. I think he's been given quite a leeway, and the scrutiny hasn't been so hard on him, with even players like Roy Keane saying that he should be given more time. We didn't see that kind of rhetoric for people like Jose or Van Gaal. I think they had in their own way they had proved a lot more worthy of this position than Ten Hag has ever done. I think this result is something that we can expect more of in the coming months and weeks. I think that United are on a downward spiral. I just don't see any kind of escape out of it. We have Newcastle on Wednesday in the Carabao Cup, and Newcastle have few injuries to important players. Obviously, Tonali is banned for 10 months, so he won't play. Isaac is also out. So we might see a weakened Newcastle, but with Newcastle and any other good team, they actually have a philosophy. They have a style of play, and certainly intensity. And with us just dawdling and doddering at the moment, I can see Newcastle winning. But even if we win, it's a non. I just don't consider Carabao Cup and any kind of important cup. But we'll see what we can do in 2 days' time. We certainly will be back with a red prep before the match. Be sure to join us for that. So until we meet again, take care, do good. Please pray for Palestine. May Allah give them deliverance from this scourge and this terror state and apartheid state of Zionism. May Allah give them strength and patience. Until then, Assalamu alaikum.